Good morning and welcome to another episode of The Max Effect, the place that we explore the habits, mindset, and help you live at your highest level. Today's episode, we are with a special. It's a special one because I'm joined by the guests to bring both clinical expertise and deeply personal passion of healing, Dr. Rachel Davenport, an naturopathic doctor dedicated to helping people get to the roots of their health and truly thrive. In this conversation, we'll dive into her journey to become a doctor, what uh, drew her to naturopathic medicine, and what it really means to take a holistic approach in today's fast, after reactive healthcare world. Thank you so much, Doctor, for coming today. They are really special to me. I hope like all the audience at home can enjoy us and um, recognize like this experience of this beautiful naturopathic doctor. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me, Max. It's great to be on the show.
So, if you don't mind, just can you tell us about your experience as a naturopathic doctor? What is a naturopathic doctor means?
Yeah, that's a great question. I get that often, Max, often from my patients or people that I meet out in the world. And they say, what is it that you actually do? Right. So I tell people, as a naturopathic doctor, I look at the whole picture of health. So that means we're not just looking at symptom care, we're looking at what's called prophylactic or preventative care. So
Wow.
when someone comes to see me, you'd be surprised, right? Because a lot of doctors come see people when they are sick.
Yes.
A lot of my patients come when they are not feeling their best, but also they just want to optimize their health, right? They want to see a better way in their health. So in real time, I do a lot of procedural medicine, which means we do IVs and injectable therapies for wellness. So think about vitamin injections like glutathione, B12, vitamin C. And then, of course, we have supportive care functions, which can include labs, which will inform our patient care treatments. And we also use that information to decide if there's a diagnosis or a prognosis that we want to address. And that's really a part of the root cause, right? We're not just looking at the one disease, we're looking at everything as a system. So something that could be going on, like in your gut, for example, if you have indigestion or upset stomach or bloating, could be related to other systems like the pituitary in the brain, or it could be related to something that you wouldn't consider, like parasites or exposures to mold or environmental toxins. So we really like to pull back the layers of the onion, I like to say, to get to the root cause of why someone is experiencing their health the way they are and how we can better them.
That's such interesting topic. That's really nice. So, did you always know want to become a doctor?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. Would I always want to see myself as a doctor? Yes. My mother will tell you stories that when I was about age 4, I would sit in the back seat of her car and she would say, "Honey, what do you want to be when you grow up?" Of course, all the questions that kids answer. They want to be a rocket scientist, and for me, I immediately would say I want to be a doctor. I always knew I had a place in the healing community. And that was actually explored more so in my childhood as a patient. I was pretty sick as a patient growing up. Right, I go to the doctor pretty frequently for a lot of concerns. I was not thriving. Right, my body was frail. I wasn't taking in nutrients, and there was a lot of symptoms coming out of that my parents wanted to explore. So we went to conventional care to start. And unfortunately, we weren't getting answers that were really helpful to us. A lot of them, the providers, and a lot of those individuals were not sure of what was going on. In fact, that they actually referred me to oncology, right? They thought that there might be a cancer risk going on with my person in my body. So it was important for my parents to explore all of the options we had. And my mom suggested we go to alternative care. So we visited a naturopathic doctor in Connecticut, where my parents live.
Nice.
And yeah, he was great. He really inspired my journey. Basically through blood testing and various machines and things that they hooked me up to that I wasn't familiar with at the time, but eclectic testing is what we call it now. They eventually had decided that I was suffering from a disorder, a disease that's autoimmune in relationship to my body. And this was not something that conventional care was familiar with at this time, right? The CDC hadn't even categorized this particular disorder. So there was a lot more research to be done. And I said, if I can not only take this from being a patient, but to giving back to this community, that would just be my ultimate life goal, is to give back to others in their health what they've given to me through this approach of naturopathic medicine.
That's incredible. But I understand that that was not your first career. You chose
Yeah,
communication first. And you was studying
I did.
New York, and you was doing
Yes.
New York. How you change your career, the communication to medicine? Why it's the point, or what change of you in your life?
Yeah, it's good to be in front of all these cameras and lights as well, because that brings me right back to my days in television. I worked as a television producer at 30 Rockefeller Center at NBC at the time, as it was known. And I really enjoyed storytelling. I really enjoyed understanding people and their narrative and how I could be a part of that. But I recognize that in television, the creative process has some limitations. And that is to say, we can be a part of someone's story, but not really truly understand it or not be able to really support them in it. So I knew at one point, and I remember sitting in my editor's seat and thinking, wow, I'm looking at this person, they're telling me about their life. But what if I could do something to make it better for them? What if that disease, this disorder, this concern that they're coming up with is something we can discuss and share in a setting where it's safe, it's vulnerable, but it's also real in the sense of how we approach it, in the sense of how we can address the matter, in the sense of what I can do to give to that person, rather than just talking behind two different screens. So, television was my first career, but I went into pre med in the middle of my television career. In fact, so I started taking classes at a local community college just to fix all my credits, right? Because I needed to get my science credits boosted up so I could apply for the medical program at Bastyr University, San Diego. There was also a second look I had at Bridgeport University. And so there was two universities I was looking at to apply to. And so I started my journey about 10 years into television, which is interesting for some people. They're very surprised to hear that. I had a career in media and then I went into medicine. But I do think that there's a marriage between the two. I think that, again, if you can see someone's narrative and be a true part of that and finish the story in a strong way, what better way to have a course in life than to really know how to think of someone in their story, in their moment, and be there for them with compassion and heartfelt knowledge at the same time.
That's really awesome. I mean, now you know, guys. Like, if you are studying something you don't feel comfortable to study that, it's another option. You can continue your career in different ways, and the best way to help to help more people. So that's really really interesting.
Thank you. Thank you.
And in this journey as an naturopathic doctor, uh, what was it like go through this process?
Yeah, to go through the process of applying and and actually getting into the program. So it's a traditional medical school approach. We are just considered a specialty. So with naturopathic medicine, you do have to attend an accredited medical school. In this case, I did choose to go to a naturopathic medical school that was accredited. That was important to me because I wanted to be in the community of believers, so to speak, of people that understood the goal and the mission ahead, which I was always told that I wanted to put the holy back in holistic medicine, right? The community is full of different practices, and alternative practices is the term we often deem. But that can include things like different spiritual practices, different modalities, right? Different approaches. And of course, I wanted to be a part of that community and offer my take and what my person had to offer specifically. So I did apply to medical school. I attended medical school for 5 years at Bastyr University.
Wow.
Yes, it's a traditional medical school path, but I did not have to do a residency because that was not required of us at the time. For entry into the licensure world. So, and of course, we have to take our boards. There's two parts to the boards, unlike traditional medical care and their approach. The MD world does 3 boards at USMLE. We have our own board certification process that's only for 2 exams, but they're pretty rigorous. And it's something that once you get through that process, you realize, wow, there's so much more to know. The tests are just skimming the surface, friends. Once you get into practice, it truly is a lot that you want to apply the knowledge you've taken over the years towards your patients. And experiential knowledge is really the only way. So safe to say I'm still through the process. I'm going through that process of becoming a doctor. And it's a constant practice. There's always more to learn. Conferences, patient care, right, and interacting with different doctors in different scenarios, right, in different settings that could offer you that much more knowledge to better your further your patient's care.
Totally. Wow. Yeah, as all careers, probably we never finish to understand what is about medicine or engineer, every time is learning and learning. So, and I believe you have practiced religion or your religion tradition involved in your career. How you feel about that?
Yeah, faith plays a major role in my life at large. So it doesn't become exempt from what I do day to day. It just looks a little bit different in the sense of how I'm able to share and explore it. So I mentioned earlier that I like to put the holy back in holistic medicine. I am, that being said, a Christian, I'm a devout Christian, and I've always believed in Psalm 103, which is to say, God will heal all of your wounds. So with that understanding in mind, I always knew that and treat God and higher power as the ultimate physician, and I'm just used as a conduit. All right, I'm just someone who can offer that healing and that understanding to other people, because I believe, as a part of naturopathic medicine and the holistic approach, that we are treating at the spiritual level as well. We are talking about things that plague people in their minds and in their spirits, whether that's anxiety or depression or just a sense of looking for identity and not knowing where to go. Right. So we do have those conversations, and that looks like oftentimes me offering to pray for my patients, whether that's before or after our sessions. Of course, I gauge their comfortability level, and I always ask about their spiritual context, if they have a faith or a higher power understanding before we enter those spaces. But of course, I think if we're not talking about spiritual medicine, we're not really getting the full picture of a person. So it's very vital and crucial for me to share about my walk and my story so that people can share about theirs and feel that much more comfortable when they do so in office with me as a patient.
That's so interesting. Like you not only take care of the physic, just take care of the spiritual. That's really interesting part.
Yeah, it's
I
really
love
cool.
it. You take care of all body and spiritual.
Yeah,
That's
that's true.
amazing. So
Thank
as
you.
a Christian, how does it inform the medicine you provide others?
Right. So when I'm offering medicine as a Christian, I'm always thinking about the principles that Jesus Christ taught, which is to say, do no harm. It's also part of the Hippocratic Oath. I don't think there's any coincidence there. I think that Jesus would have loved everything about the Hippocratic Oath, right? Do no harm, right? Get to the root cause, like find what's truly plaguing a person. And that's also a principle of the naturopathic medicine world. And dosare, Jesus was a teacher. And that principle of dosare, which by the way, is the Latin root term for doctor, but it actually translates to meaning teacher or professor. And Jesus was a great professor. So, what does that mean in real time with my patients? Well, I'm not only giving them a treatment plan, but I'm informing them of where it came from. My approach is evidence based, which means I take a lot of research behind everything I give to a patient. So, if you come into my office and you're looking for a treatment care plan, you're not only going to get what it is you need, but you're going to get an explanation as to why. Because I think it's important that patients know what they're putting into their body, why are they putting it into their body, and what sort of value that should bring to them based on the evidence and research that we've come up with so far as a community of naturopathic doctors and, in my case, believers. Right, I believe in this medicine, and I want to show that person that I take a lot of faith in what we're doing, and when they step forward into their treatment care plan, that's no different. We're taking faith and we're choosing to walk away from fears or concerns or the woes of the past, right, that they may have experienced maybe in other medical providers' offices. This is a very important alliance, and it's a very strong bond and relationship. And I treat it like I would someone that's a close friend or a relative to me. I never want to treat a patient, I myself want to treat them as if they're a person I know, because they are. They're someone I get to know on a deep and profound level. And I want to make sure that they are treated with that level of compassion and care.
That's interesting. Wow. So now you're here, guys. This is Dr. Rachel Davenport. Thank you so much for coming in, uh, teaching us and show us how it's to be a naturopathic doctor, a Christian naturopathic doctor. That's really interesting. Not always save lives, save spirits.
Thank you so much, Max. And please tune into the Max Effect. I hope I'll be invited back, and stay tuned for what's more and up and coming in the naturopathic medicine world. You can find me at Prime Wellness Rancho Bernardo at primewellness.com. And Dr. Rachel Davenport, if you need to ask any questions about what we had learned today. And thank you so much, Max, for having me.
Absolutely. No. Thank you guys for coming today and watch this episode. Please follow me and don't stop to watch these videos, because on the next episode we're gonna have Leonardo DiCaprio over here.
Invite me next time. Maybe he needs a naturopathic doctor.
Thank you so much.